What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. And of course, as always, I am your humble host, Niko House. Now, I know today is supposed to be Rockfin Premium Thursdays, but having some streaming issues right now at Rockfin, so we decided to go ahead and bring this special guest to the twos. And that special guest is Misty. Some of you may know her from on Twitter as Comrade Misty. She is a frequenter of the Assange visuals. She also has her own podcast now and YouTube channel. Can you go ahead, before we even get started, let everybody know where they can find you? And well, of course, let everybody know at the end as well where they can find you.
So you can find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. And then the show that I have with my friend Jesse Zerwell, it's called Facts on the Ground. You can find that on YouTube. And then, I co-host the Action for Assange Vigils, and we're on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Tuesdays at 9 Eastern, Saturdays at 1 Eastern.
Thank you. And I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you having me on your channel. We talked about any number of things, and I imagine we're going to probably do a lot of that here today. But you obviously you're a host or co-host of the Action for Assange Vigils, which should pretty much help us learn a lot about where your politics stand. But I am curious to know what you think about the odds of Assange getting out, or even getting the situation getting better, or potentially getting worse under a Joe Biden presidency.
So I think it's definitely worse for Assange under Biden. I don't think that it's any secret that, and that's,
relative.
I'm very cognizant of the fact that, it was a Donald Trump presidency that, arrested him and has him being held in Belmarsh right now. But Joe Biden is every bit the authoritarian, if not worse than Donald Trump. And I don't think that it matters. It's really just a matter of which brand of evil is going to be inflicted upon him. It's really just the only thing that I think that we are going to be able to do to prevent what's happening from happening is if there's a mass movement of people demanding it. It doesn't matter who's president. If there isn't a lot of people putting a lot of pressure to save Julian's life and also save the future of press freedom, I don't think anything's going to change, really. I know that sounds pessimistic, but I think it's just really realistic.
I don't think it's pessimistic at all. And I agree with you. And I would even say that the establishment agrees with you, which is why we see so much effort to suppress people, not only in the tech industry, but hell, Assange himself and the whistleblowers who've contributed to WikiLeaks. They know that with knowledge and awareness of what's happening, people will mobilize. And based on history, the government doesn't respond to like an issue that 70% of the people support, believe it or not. They will respond to 2% of the people being really damn loud because they don't want something to snowball or awareness to grow because of an issue snowballing, because that's generally what tends to happen. But I agree with you 100%. Do you feel like that under Biden, then the issue of censorship could present some, particularly make it particularly tough to bring awareness to issues like what we're seeing with Assange and whistleblowers everywhere?
So this issue, I say this all the time. The issue of free speech and free press impacts literally every other issue we face. So I don't care if your thing is healthcare, or if your thing is election integrity, or if your thing is foreign policy or climate change, whatever it is. Good luck fighting for that issue if you do not have the ability to disperse information and inform people and educate people. And the censorship that we have been seeing has been going on for a long time, but it has been ramped up exponentially over the past, I would say, maybe decade or 12 years or so. And it's a really big issue. It sounds overly dramatic, but so much rides on this.
I don't think it's overly dramatic at all. I feel like anybody who is claiming still that worrying about censorship is overly dramatic, let's be honest, they're quite frankly in denial. Let Anna Kasparian, 2 years ago at least, was claiming that there was no such thing as censorship. Funny enough, on Facebook specifically, Then with her podcast got censored by Facebook. But it wasn't with TYT, it was with Jacobin. See, TYT's umbrella protected her because of the deals they have with Facebook. But then she ends up dealing with that censorship anyway because she did something controversial, quote unquote, with Jacobin. And then, but even still, what did she say? Sometimes it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't understand that mentality at all. I don't know if you saw Glenn Greenwald on Jimmy Dore last night, but he spoke about this a little bit. And he was saying the people who have this notion that power structures are going to use censorship only to censor the people that you think need to be censored, like the Alex Joneses or the Donald Trumps or whatever, you're crazy. That's not how they operate. They're going to use this against you, against everyone. You are cheering your own demise.
Yeah, and they don't care about fake news or false news or even false facts for that matter.
They're the biggest purveyors of fake news. I mean, mainstream media, I'm sorry, but I haven't ever seen some random conspiracy theory on Twitter cause a war. Our mainstream media has lied us into numerous wars, and they have lied to us about unbelievably horrific things.
They had people cheering to go to Afghanistan, and when you think about like how illogical it was that people even thought, like, I never thought that war in Afghanistan was justified, but I could at least understand it. But like reflecting back on, I'm like, that made zero sense.
Right.
And if we even had a basic understanding of our history in the Middle East, and our military, like just like what you would think would be a basic civics or history lesson, we would have known that. But the mainstream media, they, like you said, they pervade history, and then people thought it was logical to go into Afghanistan, and we're still there 20 years later.
They lie all the time. I mean, they got us into the Iraq war. I mean, how many times do they get to lie to you before your sense of skepticism kicks in? Yeah. You know, like it's, I don't understand why people, but it's okay for them to do it. And, you know, you have people on the left cheering for censorship of people that they don't agree with. But you never see them question whether or not MSNBC should be censored for misinformation, because they put out a shit ton of misinformation on a daily basis, but nobody talks about that. You know, it's a very bizarre situation to be in. I never thought I would see people on the left cheering censorship so just proudly, almost.
Right? If we could even consider them leftists anymore. It's bizarre to think of what the left looked like in like the 60s and the 70s. I would even say on the latter half of the 50s. And like, if they looked at us now, like where the left is like, what do you mean? We have to believe them. The CIA told us. The CIA wouldn't lie to us. Like, what? Like, what people can know, like the left knows, at least I would think they knew, like the government was found guilty of killing like Martin Luther King, like found guilty in a court of law. Not, you know what I'm saying? Like, not like the court of public opinion, but the court of actual law. And all the family wanted was to put that information out there. I think they only asked for damages of like $100, $200, something like that. Cause like that was the lowest they could ask for to have the case heard. But all they wanted is for the information to be put out there. And this isn't even included. This was found out in this was 1999 that happened. And I haven't heard of anybody's history books covering that. And fast forward, and we're in an era now where the left is like basically cheering, not like cheering for the CIA, cheering for the FBI, and cheering for every narrative that the CIA or the FBI puts out about any particular issue, or, and I would say even most importantly, any particular person who might be championing that issue, whether it be anti-war issues, Assange, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's very frustrating to see just where the left is at this point.
It really is. And it's depressing because, you know, I thought that there was a chance that, you know, there was going, especially after 2016, I thought, okay, surely now we're going to be done with this, you know, reforming the party and, you know, trying to pretend like we can, you know, good friend our way out of this. Do you know, like, yeah, we're totally going to be able to just vote our way out of this. And I really was hoping
they were Bolivia.
I mean,
Bolivia can do that, guys. Bolivia has a secure election system. Our elections have been a sham for quite some time.
I mean, and that's another thing that we could rant about here for a minute is we now have lefties who are just like, oh, well, Nancy Pelosi said that these were the most secure elections of, in our history. So, I mean, you can't question the elections.
Oh,
Are you kidding me? Like, what is Nancy Pelosi said? What is wrong with you?
how do you like? What is the measure of that? What is like now? There's a like there was already kind of a monopoly on voting machines as it was, but now like there's only two sets of voting machines and software that dominate the entire political discourse, and the Democrats basically control both of them. I don't understand.
Our elections are a joke beyond measure. I don't know how many times it needs to be proven. You have 10 and 12-year-olds hacking into our election machines, our voting machines within 10 minutes. And that's not a scandal that's on the cover of every newspaper and the breaking story, headline story of every news broadcast for a month. Why is that not a bigger issue? Why are people not talking about it? And then when you question it now that it's, a Donald Trump thing, you're a right-wing grifter. And, I mean, the vitriol that like Fiorella is getting right now is disgusting. She has been covering election integrity for years.
For literally years. For years. And mostly against progressives. Almost exclusively, actually, against progressives. And like they're like, I don't understand. Why are you covering election integrity now?
Because she is questioning it when Donald Trump lost. And so they want Donald Trump to lose. So if you question it, then suddenly you're a bad person who supports Trump.
Well, then that goes where their goals are, like it reveals what their actual goals are. And it also reveals, of course, like what they think is important, because Fiorella has been covering election integrity since she's been on the network. And it's largely because like that's something that was important to me, and it just kind of, cascaded down. And so now she's covering the exact same things, talking about the voting machines, how easily hackable they are, mail-in ballots, how there's a lack of transparency as far as the chain of custody is concerned, and it's very easy to cheat with mail-in ballots. Like she's been saying all of this. Her, Pasta, Johnny, me, Rod, all of us have been saying this, and now people are like, well, what? Hold up, you want Trump to win? It's like, whoa, I didn't say that. I want democracy to be carried out. Like, I'm sure she cared. Well, no, she didn't really care about those. Between those two, she didn't really care all that much. But as far as like, we still want democracy to be carried out. In fact, in 2016, one of the only rays of hope that we got was that the most popular candidate in Republican history won and then beat the hell out of probably the most unpopular candidate in Democratic Party history. Right? And that's how it should have went. The ass whooping that was laid onto Hillary Clinton, statistically, by every legitimate measure, that she earned it. And that's what should have happened. But this time, we're hearing that, the Republicans won back these seats and they maintained the Senate and they got a bunch of House and, state House and state Senate and make gubernatorial victories. And Trump has the highest popular vote total in the history of incumbents, and yet he's the only one who didn't benefit from any of it. And people aren't all that weirded out by that, like, because it's gonna happen to like your side. It always happens eventually to your side. So that's why I find it's just mind blowing. It's mind boggling to me to see how many people are just perfectly fine with cheating as long as their side wins.
Well, and it's just, they're ignoring the fact that it's not like this is the first election that's ever been within question. All of our elections are shit. All of them. I don't care who wins, who loses, who you voted for, who you didn't vote for. I don't care I don't care. None of that matters. If it is a United States election, it's shit. It's garbage.
There's
it is
I'll give one city credit. One city. Seattle seems to be the only one who has gotten it right. Or else Kashama Sawant would never be elected anywhere. So We'll give the Seattle municipality, not the whole grander city, but just the Seattle municipality might have legitimate elections, and that's basically where it stops.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know why that's a controversial statement. If it's an election being held in the United States of America, then it is not a fair election. That is not controversial to say. That's reality. That is reality. Mm-hmm. We consistently rank like dead last as far as like democracy goes and election integrity and the security of our elections. It's bizarre to me that this is something that people are willing to argue about and to criticize other people for talking about. This isn't like a conspiracy theory. Our elections are garbage.
You know how you know about conspiracy theory? Because I mean, even like let's just take the last couple of years, right? So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Tulsi Secured America's Elections Act.
Yeah.
Well, the House, while she was here prepping for the debate in Miami, decided to force feed a bullshit version of that legislation through. Like literally took the exact same name and everything, and didn't even tell her, which is like that shit is crazy to me. Like, so in other words, y'all knew how big of a deal this could be, and
Right.
was like, let's go ahead and jack the narrative before Tulsi gets any steam on the debate stage. Like that's basically what it seemed like. So anyway, with the Securing America's Elections Act that they introduced, they, including Bernie and AOC and Ilhan Omar, we got to secure our elections. We need to secure elections. The elections are such a problem. We don't, because they honestly and rightfully so believe because of all the blunders they had that over the last couple of years, they thought that the Republicans were going to come in and just beat their ass again. And seems like for the most part that's exactly what happened anyway. But
Yeah.
But it was the biggest deal in the world when they thought the election could be stolen from them or even honestly be beat on fair grounds, because that legislation that they were introducing was going to put all the power basically in the incumbents' hands. And now that we're seeing how this Dominion situation turns out, oh, that's why y'all did that. Because they also are taking the power to audit out of the federal government's hands as well. Like with the legislation they were introducing. And so it's just crazy to me how you heard them gaslight and ring the alarm on how important election integrity was. And now that they won, what are y'all talking about? Our elections are perfectly secure. What are you talking about? Y'all
Well, like
stupid.
2
That's
days
crazy.
before the election, it was still Russia is going to hack our election, Iran's going to hack our election, China's hacking our election. And then Joe Biden wins, and suddenly you don't hear anything else about Russia. There's nothing else. I mean, wow. They went from absolutely they're going to hack the election to 24 hours later it's like a non-issue that nobody needs to talk about. I mean, that's weird.
Why?
What
we've
if Joe
saved
Biden's
democracy.
working for Putin? What if Joe Biden's working
Vladimir
for Putin?
Putin was so scared of Joe Biden, right? He was like, nope, this is where I stop. This is the line, guys. Okay, you got me. Like that's,
Yeah.
it's either that or his iPhone battery died like right before and he forgot his charger.
Right.
That's the only explanation I could think of, because otherwise that would mean that our government and our media is full of shit, and that can't possibly be the reason why.
Yeah, they would never push a completely evidence-free conspiracy theory for 4 years at the top of their lungs to distract from the failures of the Democratic Party. They would never do that.
They would never do that.
Never.
Yeah.
Crazy talk.
You know how you figure out whether or not a narrative is legitimate or not? At least for the most part, you see what side of it Mitt Romney falls on. That's what you do, because like 2 days right after everything pops off, the last ditch effort is always for the establishment to get Mitt Romney to he aligns with Dems and condemns blah 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 blah. Oh, okay, cool. So it's bullshit. Got it. It's the only reason you call Mitt Romney for anything. I mean, the boy doesn't have any clout anymore. Not like that in politics anyway. So I don't know why they like people care. Like no offense, but like he's a loser at this point. Like you can be governor, you can be Mr. Bain Capital and all that good stuff, but in front of the entire world, you got your ass whooped, so your opinion isn't really all that important anymore. That's how most people feel. So, but when you bring out somebody like Mitt Romney and just stroll him in front of us thinking like that's going to change anybody's mind, it doesn't change anybody's mind in my opinion. It just reveals exactly what your intentionality is, which is to deceive people, and you think you just believe in this fallacious appeal to authority, that if you see a big name, that must mean it's true. And we just got to get out of that mindset.
They did the same thing with John Kasich.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like he's the guy that they paraded out and wanted you to pay attention to and think that he was reasonable and, pragmatic. And, this is like they do that all the time. It's
civility
completely
politics.
Ridiculous. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And civility politics is getting you killed, friends. Like, I don't know how to tell you that. You can be really nice about it, but they're going to kill you. Like, they're killing you slowly. And you're like thanking them.
With a smile. It's like whenever Joker kills his victims in Batman and they like are smiling after, like while they're dead. Yeah, basically what it is. What it seems like.
Yeah, it's a truly bizarre situation to be in, to watch people cheer for their own demise. It's depressing.
It is.
I mean,
it's scary, and it's something like I wake up every morning and I I unfortunately, because of like the nature of what we do, I have to go on to Twitter, even though like a lot of times I'll take 3-4 days off. Sometimes I'm taking a week or two off because like it just drains so much of your psychic energy and worth it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you go on there, you see some of these people cheering for some of the stuff that they're cheering for, and then the stuff that they attack people for. And it's once again just like history has shown us, like Martin Luther King was always attacked, even by black people. By the way, people, if you don't know, because they didn't want him rocking the boat. JFK was attacked and maligned. Like I know that they blew up his legacy to make him seem like he what they tell us about JFK, people just, oh, he's the best American president. Like a lot of people consider him to be that, and they don't even know why. And you can make a very, very valid argument that he absolutely was, but they don't even know why. And there's a reason for that. Like they know they idolize Martin Luther King, but they don't really understand why. Like if you knew just how real those people are, then you would actually be almost like scared out of your mind, because you're like, hold up, these people were as connected, as savvy, as strategic. They presented themselves very well. They were all well connected. Kennedy's a damn Kennedy. Like that's a Kennedy, people. And despite being the president, being the leader of the civil rights movement, being one of the leaders of the Black Panthers, et cetera, they could take them out and completely wipe away their legacy, like as it really was, and then just install into your brain and into the media some whitewashed legacy. Like that's terrifying, and that should be something that people look at. Like the people that are being attacked every day right now are the ones that you're going to look back and wish you listened to every single time.
Yes. And that's always the case. And I think that what's so interesting is that it's like we worship a mythology. It's like it's what we think about these people. I mean, you and I know, but I mean, generally the average person, what they think about, Martin Luther King or, Kennedy or any of these people, it's a mythology. It's not even a realist. It's not who they are. It's not who they were. And it's this false history that has been given to us. And, I'm a firm believer that you can't figure out where you're going unless you know where you've been. And the fact that our history is so distorted and so just completely warped, and we'd have no idea. Some of us have some idea, but the reality of it is most people have no clue about the history of this country, where we came from, what we stand for, what we've always stood for, how we came. I mean, none of it. It's all this complete, distortion of reality.
That's all. That's exactly what it is. And I gotta say this point because it's really important. I'm gonna get to these super chats next, but we were just talking about off camera. So I've been reading JFK, the Unspeakable. And I'm only like a couple of chapters in, and it's like, somewhere in the back of my mind, for example, like I knew JFK was a veteran. Like I think it's because we talked about him in the army at some point, and I'm like, no, like JFK was a vet. Like he was in the thick of World War II, veteran, saving people's lives with a strap, chewing it, swimming for miles and miles, and because of that experience, he ran for political office and ran for president to stop all wars. And that never gets discussed. And then you start thinking about it, well, hold up. Well, what about this? You know how many anti-war vets there are? And it's funny because we always used to joke like, damn, like everybody would be freaked out because they were worried that like Tulsi, if she won, she'd be almost immediately JFK'd. And it's like looking at the parallels between the two, like going into the thick of a war we really shouldn't have been in, and then coming out of it saying no one should ever have to live through this ever again, and then using all of the clout that you've been given, even though people thought that you were supposed to use it to do the elite's bidding. You're like, I'm gonna take all this clout, I'm gonna save the world. And you start to see the patterns of, okay, so basically, not if you're a veteran, so there's like this negative stigma against veterans that you're a pro-war most likely if you're a veteran. And it seems to that's not the case. In fact, the most influential people who like leave that type of environment and are considered to be activists, they're anti-war vets. They've been through it, they've seen it, they've seen the consequences, and they're like, no more. And that, in my opinion, is probably the scariest thing to a like these elite, the deep state, the CIA, the people who say, I know that game already. I know exactly what you're doing, and I got an answer for that. And you in that book, you just see them kind of bouncing back and forth with that, where the CIA will try something, JFK will figure it out because of his personal experience in the military. He uses his military experience, and then it's like a lot of back and forth, and you almost kind of like feel bad, like, damn, bro, any president that we get, you're not the worst adversary that you have to deal with is not Russia, Iran, China, any terrorists in the Middle East. It's your own government. It's literally your own government, and that's terrifying. Glory, thank you very much for the super chat. The levels of the levels of white knighting seen this election season has reached new heights. Yeah, you're really right about that.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't even know what to add to that, but yeah, you're absolutely correct. We got two more. Oh, North American Aid, thank you very much for the super chat. I find it hilarious that folks will berate Trump supporters about rigging, but won't bring on the convo couch. Cough, cough. Jordan Sheridan. Yeah, well, Jordan's been avoiding us for a while, and there's a long story to that, but we're not going to get into that here. But I agree. I do agree. Like in any scenario, if you are going to attack someone's idea or message, and that person is willing to come on in order to, and he knows that they are in that particular case. Like, you got three people to choose from in that case. You got Johnny, Pasta, or Fiorella. Any of them can tell you anything about election integrity. And yet you won't invite any of them on, but you'll attack them on your show and you'll do all this. Like, in my opinion, you can't be taken seriously on that issue then. Because if you have a show,
high school bullshit, really. Okay, fine.
It is high school
you don't
bullshit.
agree. It really is. Okay, you don't agree with Fiorella? Okay, that's great. I mean, I get it, but why are you attacking her personally and calling her a right-wing grifter and all of these names when you could just invite her on your show, and have a conversation with her and see where she stands, and I don't understand why it's considered a good thing to just start attacking people, especially somebody
and
who's
he
been
has direct contact with her, or he can get direct contact with her. He knows her like one of her best friends.
Well, listen, I like Jordan. Like, he does some good work sometimes. I mean,
he does decent work.
I want to like him. I do. I
don't know why. I mean, he kind of looks like a rat. Like, before I knew him, I just didn't like him, and then I was like, oh, okay, I guess he's cool because he's doing some good work, whatever. Then, I found out, okay, my assumption was true. But once again, in my opinion, I think that goes back to the white saviorism thing. It's like the same thing when people say, I really want to like Elizabeth Warren. I'm like, but why?
Yeah.
Because, there are clearly people who, for example, really want to hate Tulsi. Or
that's weird.
Really want to hate Fiorella. Or, especially with Tulsi and Fee, they're the nicest people in the world. There's nothing that either of them have ever said on camera, on Twitter. Also, maybe because I'm not a Democrat, but there's nothing that either of them have said that made me think, man, those are bad people and I don't like them. And there are some people who do a lot of great work and I just don't like them, but I can still respect their work, but I just know I don't like them. But with Fee and Tulsi, and even sometimes the way Nina's treated, and really just people of color in general in the movement, from what I've seen, me not being excluded from that, it's like they want to dislike someone. They want to hate this particular person, and they don't even really have a good explanation for it. But I think, in my humble opinion, it's because that person, whoever that person may be, to the person who is doing all the hating, they are forcing that person to address and reflect on things about themselves that they know they need to address. And so their shadow self is coming out and no. They're stupid. They're wrong. You're not the problem. It's them. Because if you acknowledge the problem, then you have to do something about the problem, or you're just a grifter who's complaining and everybody will figure it out. And then your actions start to resemble that. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. It's people see.
Well, I also think that there's an element of, when your entire belief system, like everything that you thought your whole life is challenged, that's really difficult to face.
It is.
When somebody is telling you that, your elections are completely 100% rigged all the time, there is no such thing as a secure election in this country. But you have been propagandized from birth to think that we're like this beacon of democracy.
Area, by the way. One, in all seriousness, there's one area in like the northern side of New Hampshire where the first votes are counted in the primary. I don't know because I saw it and we couldn't believe it. They literally put the votes in a ballot box all at the same time, and they have a person who is hired to go find you if you're a registered voter in the city and you didn't vote and didn't give them a reason as to why you didn't vote. And then they count the votes out loud in front of anyone who wants to watch. That is literally how every election should be.
What sorcery is that? What?
We couldn't believe it. It. Dan Campbell, I'm gonna let you finish, Bishop. Let me just read a super chat. Dan Campbell, thank you very much for the super chat. If you have to indulge in a healthy social media like Twitter, then you have responsibility to yourself to take frequent breaks for sanity's sake. Amen. MLK is a convenient symbol to idolize. That doesn't require courage. I mean, hell, we've seen the most cowardly people use MLKs. Everybody, racist, conservative. If a racist conservative can use that image in any way, form, or fashion, it's because it's
fabricated. The FBI puts out tweets on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, talking about honoring his legacy. Like, you guys that fucking killed him. Like, what are you doing? Putting out like
Dobby said electric Jesus Elon Musk, the AstroTurf emperor. I mean, I don't know, between him and AOC for the millennials, and Alyssa Milano. That was easy.
Alyssa Milano. Oh my.
She's a celebrity AstroTurfer. She's not actually that good at it, but whatever.
No.
She's as good at acting about like when it comes to politics as she is like in every other aspect of her career.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So bad.
But yeah, you were saying before I rudely interrupted you, you were talking about hold on, what were we just talking about?
I have no idea.
I have one more chat. Where? What does it say? You need more content. Like, I appreciate that. It's some who? Buster Peak said we need more content like this. We give them hope. Hey, look.
I never hear that.
All, tell me where to find you at, Misty, since while we're on the subject.
You can find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust, and I have a show called Facts on the Ground. You can find me there, and I also co-host the Action for Assange vigils. And it's really weird to have somebody tell me that I give them hope, because usually people yell at me because I'm a pessimist. So
I don't think you're a pessimist. I think you're just a realist.
Yeah, that's what I think too. But people don't like the truth. They really don't.
They don't. And it's funny because I'm like the most, I'm just trying to share this link in the chat for you guys. So don't just ignore me. But there you go. So people can just subscribe to your channel. But I find it interesting. I'm like an optimistic person, actually. I'm like an overly optimistic person because I believe in like speaking things into fruition. I'm like really big on that. But like, I don't let my optimism cloud reality. Like my whole goal by being optimistic is actually to change reality, but like I can't, like I'm not the type of person that's going to pretend like something isn't happening, because then you can't change it. It's just going to keep happening. Like damn, like and I guess if that makes me a pessimist, I guess, but like I'm not a pessimist at all. It's just like when somebody shows me who they are, I'm not going to pretend like they aren't that person.
I just feel like you can't fight what you don't acknowledge. And exactly. I'm not going to pretend like things are better than they are just to like make myself feel better in some weird way. I'd rather just deal with reality and, not be surprised by anything. I like that. I don't want to be surprised. My brother posted a post on Facebook randomly yesterday where he basically said, he's like, isn't it interesting that all the like biggest tech giants and the people who are in charge or who invented some of these stuff, they won't let their kids nowhere near any of the technology until they're adults. And he's like, but they made it for everybody else and y'all are on it all the time.
And he's like, y'all don't
Yep.
find that weird? And somebody was asking him, which is funny. He said, bro, this is stuff that goes through your head all day? I was like, well, I mean, when the burden of having like a perceptive mind is that you're constantly trying to solve problems that haven't even occurred in your life yet.
Yes. Oh,
Right? Like, you have
yes.
ADHD, so you understand the struggle. Like, it's just, that is just exhausting in and of itself. But it's
Yeah.
just funny because, like, my brother at some point while he was in the Navy was like an albatross around his leadership neck, not because he wasn't good at his job, but because he was absolutely fucking amazing at his job and he was holding everybody accountable. And like in his position, he could do that because they weren't doing their stuff, so it wasn't allowing him to do his stuff. So he's like, okay, fine, I'll just go above your goddamn head. And people at first that were mad at him about it, guess what? They're either no longer in the Navy or they never got promoted or they didn't get their jobs. And then my brother like had the first perfect score on an inspection in his base's entire history. And like everybody in his, because eventually you realize the people who are trying to warn you are doing you a favor. Because we don't do it, I feel like we don't do it in any sensationalist way. Like we're just like, this is reality. You know, we can deal with it. Like, I'm optimistic when people acknowledge reality. I am not optimistic right now because people are still like, for example, saying, well, Biden is 100% better than Trump. And like Trump is being attacked as we speak by CNN because he's trying to accelerate troop removal from Afghanistan. They're like, you know, he's even firing people from the Pentagon who are trying to stop that effort. He's really firing warmongers. Can you believe the audacity of this guy? And Biden is simultaneously saying what? He wants to keep troops in Afghanistan. That's just one example.
And he wants to increase defense spending. And I mean, come on, you guys. It's not like, I get it. Trump is a piece of shit and he's rude and he's loud and he's disgusting and he's, you know, a turd. But, you know, Joe Biden is truly terrifying, and not Joe Biden, because I mean, kind of has noodles for the reins, but the people behind Joe Biden and the Kamala Harris aspect of it, and just you know, these people are every bit as authoritarian as I mean, they've been attacking him from the right on foreign policy the entire 4 years he has been in office. I mean, hardcore. They went after him about Syria, and
they say he wasn't hard enough on China.
Yeah, he's not hard enough on Russia. Like this whole 4 years, he's incredibly tough on Russia.
Yeah, he's been and he's been overcompensating on Russia because they've been trying to make him seem like he's disloyal to the country. Otherwise, like he's this treasonous. Like Trump isn't a treasonous. Like he's not a traitor by any stretch of the imagination. I don't like people saying that because there's plenty of legitimate things to attack Trump on. There really is, right? He's a douchebag.
Plenty.
He's not as smart as he thinks he is. He thinks he's smarter than and that's like, you can tell with some of these cabinet firings, like when he fired John Bolton in the fashion that he did it, he was like, somebody told me that this guy was good and my dumbass believed them. And I listened to a lot of his strategy and now look at where we are. See, he never fell back into the TPP trap because he's at least good enough on economics and business and trade to understand like, okay, this is going to be a problem in the future. But foreign policy, Trump had zero knowledge of, and they took advantage of it by putting some of the worst possible people in his administration. I would really love to know who his chief of staff was, who picked those people, but that wasn't Trump. And Trump and his supporters don't want to admit it, but like, he's dumb when it comes to stuff like that at times. And that's how he gets taken advantage of. And that's fine, right? He's a human being. But he's dumb like Bernie doesn't read legislation. I don't give a damn what anybody says. He clearly does not read legislation. In fact, I'm not sure he's read anything in the last 20 years because he's literally saying the exact same things he was saying in 1990, unless he's making up an excuse for why he supported some policy he shouldn't have. But like, his message is basically the same, and that's not necessarily a good thing, right? Tulsi's problem is that she is so naive when it comes to some things. She is a people person, but she's not a room reader, which is two different, like those are two different things. You can read a room and adjust your personality however you want to in order to appease whoever's in your room. But like, that's not Tulsi. Tulsi actually seems to have a total deficiency in that regard. When people say she panders, I laugh at them because she doesn't know how to do it. Like literally has zero idea how to do it. But that's a problem sometimes, because like you want her to be real, but you also got to know who your audience is, and like that's a problem for her, that people don't like. People think she's being nefarious when it comes to no, but like once again, we just gotta be honest, and we haven't been seeing that, which is how you get what Joe Biden is somehow better than Trump, but when you're voting for Trump, we're voting for Trump effectively. That's basically, we're voting for Trump. If you voted for Trump, then you voted for Trump. Sometimes you're going to get the establishment with it. Sometimes, a lot of times, honestly, you're not going to get the establishment. On the other side of that fence, if you vote for Biden, you're not voting for Joe Biden. You might be voting for Kamala in reality, but most of all, you are absolutely voting for every bad thing Trump has done and every bad thing we know Biden has done and the establishment wants him to do. And so you're effectively voting for the entire neoliberal and neoconservative establishment. That's what you were voting for. And there is not a single instance where you can say, like, and mean it, that Joe Biden is actually less harmful to the world than Donald Trump is. It's not true. It's incompetent imperialism versus very competent imperialism.
No, and it's like, this isn't even up for debate. Like, even in the past 4 years, I mean, because we have 47 years of Joe Biden's history to look at to see what kind of person he is and what kind of legislator he is and what kind of leader he is. We only have 4 years of Donald Trump, but if you even just compare the 4 years of Donald Trump to the 4 years of Joe Biden and Barack Obama in their first term, it's not even close. It's not even close.
Isn't that crazy?
And listen, I hate that I have to qualify this, but I hate Donald Trump. This is not me supporting Donald Trump. This is me pointing out the very obvious fact that Joe Biden is every bit as awful, worse in some very serious cases. Like you mentioned the TPP, Joe Biden's bringing that back. That is coming back. It's
Build
already
Back
happening.
Better is largely, in my opinion, that's the Great Reset and Build Back Better. I largely think that's what TPP basically is about to come through. They're going to repackage it as something else, but that's what it's going to be.
I am far more terrified of Joe Biden than I was ever afraid of Trump. Mm-hmm. Trump is a buffoon. He's sloppy and he has no gift for subtlety. Like, he just blurts it out. He'll just straight up tell you we're going to go steal their oil, or,
Bruh.
I mean, he has no ability to play that game of, hiding behind the mask of pretty imperialism. And, he's not good at that.
When he tries it, he's so bad at it, it's obvious he's lying.
Yes. And, he's also difficult to control. Like, even when they give him a teleprompter, he will go off script sometimes and say shit he's not supposed to. And, that's the only reason they don't like him. I mean, he's done everything, not everything that they've wanted, but he has been easy for them to control for the most part. And he's gone along with everything that, bombing Syria. I mean, he hasn't been as war hawkish as they like. That's one reason they don't like him. But the biggest reason they don't like him is because he exposes them a little bit more than they like. He's not, a gifted bullshitter. They
don't hate him because of what he does. They hate him because he makes everyone else's jobs, like, because their job is professional corruption. Like, he makes their job much more difficult. Like, and it's, and once again, I can't even, sometimes maybe he's doing it on purpose because, once again, as I'm learning from this JFK book, that's absolutely necessary. You absolutely have to do stuff that will expose the true intentions of the deep state, CIA, the intelligence community, whatever you want to call them. And I think that what we saw, like, because he fired John Bolton, right? Which kind of was like, okay, well, that was, and the way he fired him, once again, this wasn't on no amicable terms. It was like, this man full of shit. He wanted to use the Libya model in Venezuela. He was wrong on Syria. He wanted us to stay in Afghanistan, putting everything out there. So it's like, oh, so you've actually been taking notes. Well, honestly, I was under the impression that Trump never took notes in meetings, but clearly he has been. But it's, so basically, like, so you've been telling me you've been sitting back and watching them and, like, letting them fuck up. And then so you can just point at them and fire them and be like, look, everybody, I told you he was bad. And he gives them enough rope to hang themselves with. And honestly, I wish the progressives were a little bit more shrewd in that sense at times, because we never give people rope to hang themselves with. We give them all the leverage in the world, then they take that leverage and run away with it, and we're like, oh shit, did we just make them famous and we got nothing for it?
Yeah. Well, progressives have been incredibly ineffective. Let's be real. I mean, the party is worse. Things are worse. Like you guys said, you were taking over the party and reforming the party, and they're fucking worse, way worse than they ever were.
Yeah, they're way exactly.
They straight up rigged yet another primary right out in the open, and nobody did anything again. Like they're worse. They don't care. It's so Joe Biden spent the entire campaign shitting on progressives and their ideas, and you guys still voted. Like everybody still voted for, not everybody, but you know what I mean. Like there was a lot of people
enough, even with without the rigging. Like it was still too many.
Yes. I mean, there was a lot of like, fuck around and find out from the progressive base. They were all like, yeah, you fuck with us, we're going to come get you. And
well, you know what
they voted for Joe Biden.
Look, now, of course, we're going to put our conspiracy theory tinfoil hats on right now. But
I never take mine off.
True. I have to because my hair, it's a lot.
Oh,
but
fair.
It was a lot of fuck around to find out people. And I honestly believe that it would have worked for the most part, except COVID came around conveniently. And then like black people started getting killed at ridiculously like public ways more conveniently. And then BLM was initially getting, coverage, not for, it was positive in the very, 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 very beginning of the coverage. And then they immediately moved from BLM, called us, says, that's Russian propaganda, actually. Now that we think about it. Russians are organizing these things. And then they moved on to focusing on quote unquote Antifa, right? Whatever this idea of Antifa is nowadays. And so they basically, because Trump is an idiot, once again, he kept taking the bait on things he should have never took the bait on. And it really fucked everything up. Because I'm like, Trump, just shut up. Just shut up. And I said in February or March of 2019 or 2020, said, so this race is basically going to come down to whoever shuts the fuck up long enough to not dig a hole for themselves. And Biden, in my opinion, did a better job of that, at least.
Well, he hid in the basement. Yeah.
Literally.
Biden didn't campaign. It's like crazy to me. And, everybody blamed COVID or whatever. He can't go out and do events, but
that's not true because he was trying to go out. That's what was also weird because he was trying to go out and do events at times especially towards the end. Nobody showed up.
Yeah.
So even if you didn't, maybe you could have had your mind changed. But what happened was, no, you didn't go to Biden's event because who the hell goes to Biden's event? And then you see something dumb that Trump does on TV. And you're like, well, I wasn't going to vote for Biden, but I don't like Trump now. So you don't really know how bad Biden is, but Trump won't stop talking. So it's like recency bias. And he's been so bad. And then like simultaneously, I won't say that Trump has been absolutely horrid on COVID. I'm not in that camp. A lot of people are for some reason, but I'm not. I like to equally distribute my blame for the shit that's been going on over the last year. But Trump could have done more, in my opinion. And he could have stopped the CARES Act from going through, right? Or when he did it, he could have said, look, they just try to give y'all a bailout. And to be fair, with the unemployment legislation that or executive order that he introduced, like he cut the corporations out completely. And that was something that should be commended. He also extended moratoriums. People aren't supposed to be getting evicted, even though they're still getting evicted, but they're not supposed to be getting evicted. Like that's a good thing. But like you should have been louder about that. Like you should have been tweeting about that shit every single day. Like, why do I have to take it upon myself to put out like an extension on moratoriums to extend unemployment benefits? This should be their job, and they're not doing it. Call out everybody in fucking Congress, not just the Republicans, not just the Democrats, everybody. And he didn't do that, but he was still being loud about BLM and Antifa. Motherfucker, like at the end of the day, all that BLM and Antifa shit, like that's a big deal. Don't get me wrong, police brutality is a big deal. But like, motherfucker, I gotta eat before I go to my protests and shit. Like that's what I'm concerned with right now. So, yeah. But real quick, we got some super chats. J9 Campbell. I used to be, hold up, disappeared on me. I used to be a Hope Springs Eternal person. Now I'm a full-on realist and nihilist. Hey, look, I feel you. But, you still gotta have hope, because when you can, like, with JFK, for example, you had everything handed to you on a silver platter, and kind of very similar to, like, Tulsi is another example, Nina, less so, but still, like, when you have everything and they're like, hey, you play ball, you're going to be legendary. We're going to give you such a cool chapter in those 5th grade history books. And he didn't do it. He literally knew I could be killed for doing this. And he still, and like Martin Luther King, he could have been a made man, just shut up, wrote books, pull, you know, his Al Sharpton, put on his best Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson impersonation, right? And he could have just wrote out, Martin Luther King is actually would still be like young right now. People don't even realize that. Like he was only 35 when he died. Like I'm not saying young, I mean like young for an old person. Like,
right.
And yet he still, after seeing what happened to JFK, and I believe even, I think Malcolm X happened before Martin Luther King, right? That was 65? But I'm sure somebody else was assassinated in the meantime. Still, understanding that, knowing he was being spied on by the CIA, knowing he was being spied on by the FBI, he kept fighting. And like for me, that's like, well, shit, bro. Like if people with all that clout and everything to lose still keep fighting, knowing that they can lose it all, like for me, we need more. We just need more people like that. And I think that once people figure out that there are a lot of people like that in the world every day that are fighting that just never get cameras put on them, then we can start to hopefully build those coalitions that we need to build in order to get this this just hellscape that we call the United States figured out. North American 8, the thought is funny, but which do you think the Dems dropped faster? Russia trying to mess with our elections, or Me Too believe all women? I'm gonna let you answer that one, Missy.
I think that they dropped Russia faster. The Me Too thing seemed to be more of a gradual letdown, where it was like, oh, Joe Biden has these credible allegations against him, so we're just going to slowly stop talking about it. The Russia thing was like, Russia's going to hack our elections, and then 24 hours later, it's like, Joe Biden won. Our elections are perfect, you know? So it was a very quick switch.
Well, it wasn't even a 24-hour turnaround. Matter of fact, very quick. It was even during that night. I think that I remember at least somebody briefly tweeting about it or talking about it, saying, you know, we still have to make sure that Russia isn't trying to intervene. Like it wasn't like the news or anything like that, but like some blue check. So I'm like, uh-oh. But to be honest with you, and one of the reasons I was like so nervous to go to sleep that night, not that I was cheering for Trump, but I was definitely cheering against Biden. I was like, I know when I go to sleep, I'm gonna wake up and this shit's gonna look completely different. I know Trump should win by every measure. Like, it would have been so much like better to just focus on taking him down for the next 4 years and making sure we never get anyone like Trump again. But like, I knew it. And especially because you just didn't see no random updates by the CIA, no random updates, you know, from John Podesta and the Clintons. No one's worried about election fraud right now. Nobody. Oh right? No. I'm like, I know how this is about to end. And then hours later, what you talking about? The elections are perfect. They've always been perfect. They're super secure. Super secure.
The most secure in history. Guys, that's what they say. That's what they wouldn't lie.
Nancy Pelosi would never lie to anybody.
No.
A woman who would show you the inside of her $12,000 refrigerator would never lie to you.
Yes, Queen. Tear up that speech.
Oh my God. Josh.
And somebody.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Josh Krulik, thoughts on Christine Olivo versus Frederica Wilson? Oh, Christine is dope.
Yeah, Christine is cool.
Is like, that was actually the district that I was going to run in. But like, I'm not the type to step on black women's toes when they out here doing the damn lowest work. So I'm going to leave that for her. Because like, Frederica Wilson has been a problem for a long time. And Christine seems to be running on like everything that we could possibly ask her to run on, while simultaneously staying out of drama, which is clearly like a hard thing for progressives and politicians to do nowadays. And honestly, and because of her being also and simultaneously unapologetically black while doing it, I think that that's why she isn't getting the support that she got she deserves, really. And I think she did start a little bit late, right? But I hope that she reruns. And if she runs again, Christine, reach out to me. I'll get out and stomp for you. You know, I'm down the street. Hit me up, because that you ran a brilliant campaign, straight issues based. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Like, as a black man, a lot of those issues that are being discussed by Christine's campaign, like, she does talk about like issues that affect the black community, because that's the community that she primarily represents in her district. But like, for her to have such a greater understanding of foreign policy and healthcare and Assange and UBI and like really digging into doing the real policy work to be able to articulate a lot of those issues and then explain that to the community that she's running for. Like, that's big. We really don't see that. And in my opinion, like, it's because our priorities are a lot different because of just like the system of oppression that we live in. But she's managed to marry what the issues of the Black community with the issues that are really like affecting us existentially.
Well, and even though she lost, she still keeps at it. Like, she's still pushing these issues.
Still.
So, yeah.
Using that blue check for the Lord's work. Butter speak predictions of what we're going to experience in the next 4 years. Missy, you go ahead. What do you think is going to happen in the next 4 years?
Oh, I don't hate making predictions because, there's like, you couldn't write this shit. We seriously, Steve Poikonen says it all the time. We live in a cartoon, and that is real talk. Like, we live in a cartoon.
Not even a good one.
No, it's like the worst cartoon ever. But I don't really like to make predictions, but listen, I have been paying very close attention to the attacks on, civil liberties and free speech and all of that stuff. That has been amplified to an unbelievable degree. And that, really can only mean one thing, is that these people are very much making the move to have like total control. Mm-hmm. And because, like I said before, every other issue that we face is directly impacted by, the attack on free press and free speech. And so, it's terrifying to me that more people aren't paying attention to it. It's terrifying to me that, we're kind of being slow walked into this like really horrifying dystopian Orwellian, all of those cliche overly used terms, like all smashed together with a bow on it. It's we're really headed to, I think, a dark place. It's kind of, and again, I'm sorry, I hate to be a pessimist or whatever, but that's just me objectively looking at where we find ourselves. And then we have so many people who are still in denial about what we actually truly face. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people who still think that if we just vote harder next time, things will be fine. And if we just phone bank a little bit more, we can beat this system. And, that's a problem, because that's not reality. And we need more people to, kind of recognize where we really find ourselves, because you can't, like I said before, you cannot fight what you don't acknowledge. And Absolutely. We're up against a lot right now. And we can't pretend we're not.
We need, I guess, media. We need media to be media. People keep asking me why when I run for office, and I'm like, bro, I can't run for office with the media in this shape. Like, for what? Okay, cool. Maybe I'm in one of those very few districts where like you can kind of there are like very small municipalities where you can overwhelm the system by just getting people really energized. But like, then what? So I run for Senate, for example. Y'all think I can run against Marco Rubio in Florida because I'm gonna get no media coverage, not local media coverage. And if I do get local media coverage, they will be straight smears. On top of that, I'll be cheated. On top of that, why do you think you don't see, like, you got Bernie, but like Bernie, when he got to the Senate, wasn't really the progressive that he was when he was in the House or while he was mayor. There's a reason for that. Because the Senate is where progressivism goes to die. Because you have to basically run a presidential campaign for your entire state, which requires you to raise a whole lot of money that most people don't have the capabilities to raise, unless you've been in the system and you've already ingratiated yourself in the system and you already got your connections, and you got to use those connections, which means you owe some favors. And so they'll let you win, because eventually they're going to come back and collect on them favors. That's the only way you can be senator. Like, now, if we had media who would focus on some of these Senate races, demand and call out demand debates, and then call the establishment politicians out and incumbents out if they avoid those debates, then like you're seeing something a little bit different. But that's not what we're seeing right now. And for me, that's why I created the MCSC network, is because like I saw like 2-3 years ago, even I'm like, yo, if Biden wins, it's like not even Biden, but Kamala. And I just knew, I'm like, I know it doesn't matter that we took her out when we took her out, because they're going to install her, because that's what history has shown us. If that's what they wanted, that's what they want. And I did know that like the establishment Democrats do learn their lesson. Like I'm like, they're not going to let this shit slide again. Like, they let Bernie be way too close to Hillary, and they reconciled that by switching caucus states to voting machines and hand counted paper ballot states to voting machines with no no ability to verify, not legitimately anyway. Like, and if you're talking about 4 years of, maybe probably 2 years of Biden, another 2 years of Kamala, another, she can run again, right? Or we get a worse version of Trump, a Trump who's actually articulate, and nefarious, like in his heart and soul. Like, that's terrifying to me. And for the same reason, like, we advocate so hard for Assange, the same reason I advocate so hard and try to build coalitions within broadcast media, because like, we're it. If we don't get our shit together, which is why I get so confused when I see other media like getting mad for just basic accountability. Like, accountability for a politician, like, you don't even fucking know, bro. Like, you don't know them. You ain't gonna be friends with them. They don't like you. Like, at least Tosi and Nina know me. Like, I'm like friends with them. Like, even though I can criticize them because like they also know what I like, my job, my profession, and what I do this for. So, and I'm still friends with them. At least I'm friends with them. Y'all motherfuckers be caping for people that don't even fucking know you. And like, as the world is decaying around them, what can we do if we don't have the media? We can't do shit, really.
No. And we have independent media completely failing in so many areas. Yeah. And it's depressing beyond measure. Like, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse a little bit here, but if I have to beg people to even say Julian Assange's name, that's this. I don't know if you know this, but if you're in the media or if you are in the like news or if you're a pundit or whatever, what is happening to Julian Assange directly affects your life, my friends. Like, especially people on the left. It comes back to this thing where the left seems to have forgotten that, it's not like we don't have a shit ton of historical reference for the times that this sort of thing has been used against the left. It's always used against the left. Always. It always comes back to the left.
It's mostly been primarily against the left. And now, which is interesting, we're seeing a lot of the weapons that have been used almost exclusively against the left now being deployed against like the conservatives. Their movements are being co-opted. Their message is being you see TPUSA and like the Charlie Kirks being created, the Candace Owens. Because that's something that the left has been like, for the Candace Owens for the right is like Al Sharpton or what's that fucker's name? What's his name? Roland Martin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's basically what Candace Owens is. Get a black person to come out there and say everything that your side wants to hear about black people and the party that they may or may not be supporting at that time. Like, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous, but like, it's weird to see how effective. No, actually, I would say it's been less effective. It's been less effective against the right, which is how the people like Trump can be successful. They're trying to use the tactics that they used. Like, think about it. That whole everybody's a communist thing, that wasn't for Republicans. That was for all the people who aspire to be like Henry Wallace on the left. They used to use that attack on Black Panthers, not Proud Boys. And so to see it weaponized against the right so effectively, to a certain, like, at least narrative wise, it's fucking mind blowing to me. It's mind blowing to see, like, okay, these are the tactics that the conservative neocons literally use against the left, and now the neocons are literally using it against the right, and then the left, quote unquote, is cheering for it while simultaneously getting the ricochet from it.
Yeah, we're
getting the ricochet from the shit. And they're like, oh man, but it's cool as long as they're suffering more than we are.
Oh, it's so amazing, and it's intentional too. That they all work for the same people. They're just trying to pit us against each other in whatever way possible. If that means pitting Proud Boys against Antifa and using like a race war type of a situation, that's what they'll use. Any way that they can keep us divided and fighting amongst ourselves, they're going to do that. That's what they do. That's what they always do.
Deha Cole, thank you very much for the super chat. Governor Christie Noam is the smarter and dangerous version of Trump. She will carry the torch of Trumpism. Actually, I think that it'll be Governor DeSantis out here in Florida. Because DeSantis, even like, he's going to win re-election. Like, it's going to be by a wide margin because he's managed to balance the Trumpism, like being in Trump's good favor, while simultaneously doing some decent shit, like building an environmental coalition to deal with the environment, He fired Brenda Snipes, who rigged the election against Tim Canova, and Tim Canova was wildly popular and is still wildly popular in Broward County, which is the largest county in Florida and one of the largest in the country. He took back over the school district in Broward because Baby Washington Schultz was funneling millions out of their budget for various reasons. They even threatened one of the kids that was running for school board because like he was exposing that very specific thing. Like, and obviously now DeSantis has problems, right? He's a charter school like mob boss. Like he loves diverting funds from public schools, putting it in the charter school, like things like that. That's a problematic. But also during the pandemic, he also gave us the extra $100 for that Trump. Like, whenever Trump's on executive order, Florida unemployment was available like again the next day because Ron DeSantis made sure it happened. He also made sure that the the 3 largest counties in Florida are all ran by Democrats. When he reopened Florida, he gave them permission to not open if they didn't think it was right to do so. Now, of course, they did it because they're greedy, right? And they only started retracting because the media was focused on Florida because of the elections. But that was like I'm all for like, I don't like paternalism in my government. I've never liked it. And for you to say, you know what, how about y'all assess the situation to see what's best? And I'll just trust you guys. And if I have to step in after that, I will. But like, that's the best response you can give in that situation. So, I think that because of all of that, and he was standing up to Russiagate before he got to Florida, because he was in the Senate, I think, before Florida.
Yeah.
So you were standing up to Russiagate. You got Trump on your side. You've done enough that people can believe. And he's kind of like not super anti-war, but he's anti-war enough that I think if he became president, he wouldn't be trying to get us into any new wars.
Right.
And so he could be a problem. I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but if you like don't like anything about Trump and you are worried about a Republican winning, like DeSantis is going to be a problem for y'all because he's going to win Florida and he's going to win the surrounding areas too, because even the surrounding states like him.
Well, let's not forget Trump can run again. He can absolutely run again.
Oh, because because you can run for 2 terms.
Yeah, you can serve 2 terms. They don't have to be consecutive. So he can absolutely run for president again in 2024. And I think he might.
He really might. And if things get it, and what's going to be bad is if Biden shits the bed as much as we all expect him to do.
He's already doing it.
He's already, out the gate. Like, I actually saw someone who was pretty, casual liberal, like white lady with short hair looking like, I think her name is Tina, but it's probably not. But on Twitter, she's a blue check. She wrote in The Guardian a whole article dedicated to like, bro, we just put you in. Why you fucking up so bad? Like already. I'm like, oh my God. You know what? This is good. This is a good thing. This is because if people are willing to call him out every single step of the way, because that's my fear is that people won't be doing that. But I think that there needs to be a climate where it's, hear me out now, where it's profitable, literally profitable to drag Biden every single motherfucking day, like it was profitable to drag Trump every single day. Like, that's actually when TYT made their most money. I'm not going to say how I know, but I know because somebody's told one of my home peoples that, like, one of their business operators told.
Yeah, I have no, look at Rachel Maddow's ratings. I mean, when Trump got elected, when Trump got elected and she started pushing Russiagate, she shot up. She was like, one of the top rated shows. And then once Russiagate was disproven and it started to fall apart, her ratings dropped overnight. I mean, plummeted. And that's how it goes. That's how it works. That's like when Barack Obama was president, you had Fox News making all the money and they were doing all the clickbaity stuff. And then when Donald Trump's president, MSNBC makes a lot of money and they, I mean, Jeffrey Zuck or whatever from CNN or CBS or whatever. He straight up said Trump is great for business. He's great for the media. We make a shit ton of money off of Trump. Like this is how it operates. They don't care about you. It's political theater. And
he's bad for independent media though. Well, like actual independent media who's independent minded also, because we're all about nuance. In Trump, like the whole phenomenon of Trump is like this basket of fucking nuance to actually understand like how we got there and what we need to do to prevent a Trump. And then like you have to explain to people, they're like, oh man, our choices are just between Trump and Biden. I'm like, no, that's not, those aren't the only choices. They weren't. They really weren't. And I'm tired of people saying that shit. And then you got to go to once again a whole nother explanation as to like, no, you know why I wanted Trump out. I support the candidate that could best beat him, and that was, in my opinion, Tulsi. And like Tulsi would have won all 50 states. Like I still believe that. Just like based off of how I know electoral politics to be, talking to a bunch of Republicans, I wanted her to win because I don't like Trump either. Nor do I want anyone worse than Trump to come in, which in my opinion Biden is already. So we're already getting someone who's worse than Trump, and that's what we should be doing. You shouldn't be hitting me with the excuse Trump are our only two options, or Trump and Biden are our only two options. That's not true. So if you start operating from that premise, we don't really have much to talk about. And that's why independent mindedness is like not rewarded in a situation like Trump. But I'm glad to a certain degree Biden wins. As far as the business is concerned, I've been telling people for years, I'm like, yo, Biden winning is going to help our business. Boom. On my side. I don't know about everybody else's. Probably not TYT because they've been out. You can't. It's gonna be really hard for y'all to pretend like Democrats is not y'all friends after this bullshit, right? And so they gotta go somewhere. They gotta go to some network that's gonna tell the truth. And, you know, we right here, y'all. If y'all want to come talk to us, but Biden, there's nothing endearing, like redeeming or endearing about Biden or Kamala at all whatsoever. It was literally we hate Trump. Okay, cool. Y'all rode that fucking wave literally until your damn surfboard crashed. And now now you actually have to be accountable and consistent. And the worst thing Biden does, like, they're not even going to talk about, right? Let's be real. They're not going to talk about it. They're not going to cover it. They're going to cover a little bullshit here and there, but they're not going to talk about the worst stuff. And if you're not going to be willing to cover the worst stuff, then the channels and the personalities who will, in my opinion, those are going to be the ones who find much success in the next 4 years. Just being willing to challenge Biden and being consistent there, and then holding everyone else to that same standard going forward.
Oh, I hope you're right, because that's what we need. We need people to appreciate consistency and nuance and be able to have like adult conversations about difficult issues. You know,
asking a lot, man, because I feel like the world is not.
I know.
We were lied to as kids, Misty. We were lied to as kids. Mm-hmm. You know, you're told like, oh man, all these adults have it all figured out. And I was high as shit one day. I was like, bro, so basically adults is just kids who had kids that just trying to figure that shit out and pretend like they know more than what they actually do. I been see my brother talk to my nephew and like he be giving him up. I'm like, is that true? Is that real? I don't know. Maybe we're gonna find out though. He's basically my little test dummy.
Yeah. We're all just fucking crazy people walking around trying to figure shit out. I mean, that's really all that it amounts to.
I feel like therapy. I mean, obviously, like universal healthcare should be like a thing, but like mainly, in my opinion, because of therapy. Like everybody in this fucking country needs therapy. We've been going through traumatic experiences as a nation for 400 years. Like, and it may be at some point, I guess back in the day, you were able to kind of like deal with it because like there wasn't so much noise and distractions. But now we're dealing with the trauma, and I feel like it's even more, and it's compounded, and it's like miniature trauma that like just little shit in your life, right? Whether it's health, whether it's your bills, whether it's your family, because of the pressure they're putting on you to appeal to this like American dream we call America, right? Get your job, go get your education. Don't study what you want. Study what's gonna get you paid because I want you to deal with my trauma. So I'm putting my trauma on you. Like, we need to do our shadow work as a nation. And I think like that's one of the most beneficial things about universal healthcare is like we need universal access to therapy. Everybody does. Therapists at this point should probably be the highest paying job in the country if they're doing it. Right?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we are literally being henpecked to death, though. Yeah. It's they're chipping away at our rights and our ability to care for ourselves, make money, survive, feed our kids, go to the doctor. I mean, they're literally just pecking away at us, and that's trauma. That's traumatizing. I mean, we're all dealing with being traumatized daily by our own government,
by our corporation. Like, it's so crazy. I was watching. Was it Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or something like that a while ago. I was watching on a live feed, and they were doing their commercials, whatever. This is at the beginning of the pandemic, and like you just see these commercials with people like in masks, and I was like, bro, this is fucking creepy. Like, even my friend who was like not even in politics, he was like, yo, this is weird, bro. Like, this. I'm like, okay, so I'm not just like, I know I'm a like super paranoid conspiracy theorist guy, but like this is creepy. Like, just viscerally, it's creepy. Why would I? It's like they want you to become comfortable with this idea of being permanently restricted, because even in commercials, the idea is to what? Like to promise a lifestyle or promise the hope of a lifestyle that you could eventually have if you buy this particular item. But that's not what they're like, nah, you need to wish that you can get a better mask that works better. Yeah. Be able to communicate with your family with this mask on, go to your job with this mask on. And it's like they're projecting what they want you to be comfortable with going forward. But like, I want to be very clear about something. I don't give a shit how much y'all shame people on social media. Like, I'm not wearing a mask everywhere for the rest of my motherfucking life. I'm not doing it. Like, because I don't want to. And if there is literally a 99.9% chance of surviving this fucking virus, if I'm not wearing a mask for the fucking flu to stop people from getting the flu, I'm not going to wear a mask to stop people from getting COVID. Like, unless, now, that's not me saying, if I'm fucking sick, I'm going to stay my ass at home like you should, okay? Because that's what you're supposed to do as a responsible adult. Just like I would stay home if I had the flu, just like you should. Because what you're supposed to do as a responsible adult. What you're not supposed to do is walk around with a fucking mask that's made of cloth that on the package says it doesn't work for shit, and then walk into a store, they're like, oh, man, you gotta wear a mask. Yeah, but my package said it doesn't work. What do? Just wear it. But why then? I'm not saying that like wearing a surgical mask may not have some benefits. Like there probably are some benefits. Like, and I get that. But like the quarantine to a certain degree made a little bit more sense than wearing a fucking mask everywhere. Like, and that's just like based off of the data, the CDC, which I don't even trust, and their best attempt to make people freak the fuck out. They're like, yeah, I mean, it's like a 99% survival rate still at their, and that's with numbers that I know are not true. So,
well, and if you even dare to question any of that stuff or any of these draconian measures that and it's like arbitrary stuff. Like, listen, I'm on board if masks really help, if social distancing helps, like I'm on board with all that. But you're going to need to show me like legitimate, transparent information about this virus. I want to know the numbers. I want to know the science behind it. And we don't have that from like you cannot trust anything that our government says.
That's exactly.
And it's okay to question. It is like the other day I said something about how they're trying to normalize social distancing on Twitter, and I got bombarded with people who are like, oh my God, I can't believe you're a COVID denier. And no, I'm not a COVID denier, but I think our government would absolutely exploit a disaster or a tragedy or a virus to impose, more control and authority and power over the people.
They're literally doing with climate change right now.
And they do it all the time.
Like, because I'm still like, I'm a firm believer in climate change because the science shows that, like, honestly, it doesn't matter if we do what we do, right? Climate's going to change. Like, that's just fucking history. And we can exacerbate it a bit, but I'm more so concerned about the environmental impacts, the community. Because one of my best friend's a climate scientist, and he was like, yo, he like wanted to talk to me because basically like he was thinking about doing a dissertation on like HARP, and was told basically like, nah, you can't do that shit, bro. Why? Because it's not true? No, it's real. So why not? Because you never get hired anywhere. What? It's at the University of Alaska. What's the problem? Like, it's a thing. It exists. There's a patent for it. Yeah, but when you start digging into why it was created, what it can do, et cetera, like people are not going. And then we start digging further and further into climate change. And he was looking at because he studies atmospheric science specifically, and so he always was looking at the warmth of the sea, because that largely dictates natural disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes and things like that. And he started like doing some research into like the sea warming up and because of like, so that he thought that the core could be warming up the ocean more like than people realize. It turns out actually that's true. It was like, he just found out like a year ago, they did some study on it and it's true. But if the entire ocean is heating up more so than normal, based off of whatever's happening underneath the planet, which obviously doesn't have anything to do with us, then the entire world literally would start warming up because of it. But there's another side of that equation too. He also found out that the ice caps actually do refreeze. So like before, remember they thought the ozone layer never replenished itself. Turns out a lot of tech tests came back. That was a lie. It does replenish itself if we do the right things. Same thing with the ice caps. They say the ice caps melt and that's it. But like, no, they refreeze. Like they just refroze actually like a couple of years ago. So a lot of it refroze. And so And these are the conversations we need to be having, but still need to figure out ways to make sure that they don't melt to such a degree that it doesn't matter when they fucking refreeze, bitch will already be drowned. Like, those are the conversations we need to have, but to have those real conversations, we have to have a complete picture of what we're discussing and what we're analyzing to solve the fucking problem. Because right now, people are they're talking about problems as if that is the problem, and they're like, no, that's actually not really the problem, or it's not the whole problem. And to understand, like, we just have to be willing to say like, yo, these people are lying to you about climate change. What? Are you saying climate change isn't real? No, bitch, it's not what I said. Stop. Listen.
Yeah. So annoying. It's so annoying to deal with those people. And here's the thing. This all, again, comes back to freedom of the press. We do not have an adversarial media. We do not have anybody. I mean, that's dramatic, because we do have, like, you do it, and Combo Couch does it, and Steve does it.
Legacy media.
Yes, we do not have any real media, like mainstream, media that's adversarial, that's oppositional, that's holding power to account. They're all owned by the same people who own the politicians. It's all one big club. George Carlin called it years ago.
Yeah.
So this isn't like, a problem of, people not understanding or not. They're being fed bullshit, and it's by people that they're taught that they can respect, and that are looking out for us, and that the media is working for the people, and these are the things that people are brainwashed with from birth. Yep. And it's really difficult for those people to then reassess that situation and realize that they're being lied to over and over and over again.
Because you have to admit to yourself that you've been lied to for your entire life. It's very difficult it's very, very difficult to face that. Half of y'all motherfuckers can't admit that y'all was lied to for your entire relationship. Y'all can't even deal with that shit, let alone being lied to for your entire life. So it does make sense, right? I want to go ahead and read these last couple of super chats before I let you go, so we can check out this interview where I'm actually going to stream, by the way, for everybody who's curious, the Nina Turner Tulsi Gabbard interview on Nina's Drop the Mic? Drop the MIC or Rock the MIC? I think it's Drop the MIC. Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, it's Nina Turner's podcast. So I'm going to be live streaming that here if it's available to be live streamed. So you can catch that here too. So Bramblebush. Is that a word? Bramblebush?
It is now.
Political revolution will be shut out of the mainstream media exposure, but I fully expect the tech companies, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube will crush any discussion of third party once it gains momentum as Russian attacks. Of course they will. That's what they're here for. You think that, InQtel's venture capitalism firm, CI's venture capitalism firm, think that they invested in YouTube and Facebook and Twitter to not shut down dissent? Trust me, they put a lot of thought into Facebook. They were planning Facebook for years.
Yes.
Before that shit came out. So I'm not surprised. Wait, what's the other... my chat's acting crazy.
There's 3.
Oh, I found them. Emblem Fate, thank you very much for the super chat. You said Malcolm X was better. No one co-opts his message. That's for sure. That's for damn sure. Because I'm sure they tried. They were like looking up speeches and shit. And we're probably like, bruh, we can't use none of this.
Yeah,
he was calling everybody. He was calling out fake black people. He called the House Negroes, calling out white liberals. We're like, man, we can't use none of this shit. Luis Brooks, thank you very much for the super chat. Why is the DNC worried about the Georgia seats? Manchin never votes with Dems. Performative drama. Yeah, that has to be performative drama. I can't believe they're worried about it.
They're not worried about it.
Manchin don't is literally work like he votes with Republicans more than some Republicans do.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And listen, let's be real. Democrats do not want to win those seats. Like, actually, they would rather lose those seats, because then they can blame Republicans for all of the, they're blocking Joe Biden. See, he can't do anything. It's the whole, this is what they do. So they don't really want to win.
That's what it's really about. Yeah. Because if Manchin, well, once again, though, in my opinion, if Manchin loses, that's yet another example where the senator in that state somehow, because he's a senator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If Manchin loses and he's a senator, which for everybody who's curious, basically everybody who votes in the presidential race votes in the senatorial races because of the nature of the elections. So, like, how did Manchin lose then? Because he is that responsible Democrat that the conservatives supposedly love, and Trump supposedly got beat in Georgia. So how is Manchin losing then as a Democrat? Just saying.
Yeah.
It's looking real sketch is all I'm saying. It's looking real sketch. That's a different conversation for a different day. I think we got all the super chats. Oh, there's one more. What is it? Keep an eye on Pompeo. Oh, Christopher Dobby, thank you very much. Say keep an eye on Pompeo. We
That's
always
one evil dude, yo.
Can we not keep an eye on Pompeo? He's literally
Right?
like everywhere. Every decision that ever is made, that's evil. Go follow Misty at Facts on the Ground. I'm gonna post a link one more time in the chat. One more time. Y'all need to go follow her. They do some great work. They have some fantastic interviews. And hopefully Misty and the rest of the up and coming independent journalists out here just keep making waves, and the only way they can do that is if y'all go support them. So go subscribe to her. We're trying to get Misty on Rockfin. Ronnie Kelly just joined Rockfin, by the way.
Yay.
I know. I couldn't believe it.
Nice.
I know. It's good. She's really good on foreign policy. So
yeah,
I'm not gonna be mad at her for no. It's Bree who has a Pod Save America partner. Bree's my homie, but Lord baby Jesus. I guess you gotta go where the people are, I guess. Whatever. It's cool.
Yeah.
More white wine moms gonna listen to her now. Hopefully she changes some hearts and minds. With that being said, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Thanks to Misty for ranting on the show today. But more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.